Vamos a saludar en los próximos minutos a nuestro siguiente invitado, Adam Posen, President of Peterson Institute for International Economics. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. Adam, how have recent U.S. tariff policies affected relations with major trading partners like China, the EU, or Mexico?
It is not just a question of the direct costs of the tariffs, which harm the U.S. and the major trading partners simultaneously. It's a question of the complete breakdown in dependability of the U.S. So Mexico quite reasonably thought, or Canada, that they had an ongoing agreement, USMCA, which President Trump himself negotiated, and he's violating that. So it shows that whatever deal you make with the U.S. government right now, you cannot depend on. So over time, that means that countries that can, like China and the EU, will do less with the U.S. And for Mexico, unfortunately, that means that you'll get less benefit from dealing with the U.S. than you used to.
Adam, and how do U.S. tariffs influence global economic growth and trade flows?
On trade flows, they are rerouting trade flows as well as shrinking them. Over time, they will slightly shrink trade flows, but there will be growth in what used to be called South-South trade, meaning trade between countries that are neither the U.S. nor Europe. There will also be increasing trade flows to Europe. And so, but in terms of the near term, it's going to make traded goods more expensive around the world. It's going to make multi-stage manufacturing more expensive, and therefore demand is going to decline.
Another question, Adam, in what ways can tariffs affect the exchange rates and inflation levels in both the US and affected countries?
Normally, in the past, when countries put on tariffs, especially in the US data, the currency of the tariff country goes up because you're not changing anything fundamental, and the current account deficit has to stay the same, so the currency goes up. What we've seen recently, however, is the opposite for the U.S. And my understanding, my interpretation, is this is because the U.S. is being seen as more unreliable, less safe, less competent. And so the future prospects for the U.S. and the insurance benefits of keeping things in dollars means that you are weaker. And so on net, the dollar goes down. This is unusual. But what it means for most countries dealing with the U.S. on trade is you're getting a double whammy in terms of exporting to the U.S. Your currency is going up against the U.S. at the same time that the U.S. is trying to replace your imports through tariffs. Again, for Mexico is different. Mexico and Canada are in a special situation with the U.S. of codependence because of the geography, because of the history, because of the economic logic. And so I would expect over larger periods of time, the Mexican and Canadian currencies to move with the dollar, not against the dollar.
And my last question, Adam, what role do tariffs play in shaping international investment patterns and global supply chain?
Key point for regional investment patterns is going to be how much the Trump administration, kind of like the Biden administration before it, but much more aggressively, prevents production in places like Vietnam or Mexico that take in Chinese goods or take in Chinese processes and products and then export them to the U.S. This isn't just transshipment. This isn't just relabeling something from made in China to made in Vietnam, made in Mexico. It's usually much more production, transformation, value added. But the Trump administration views that as leakage, that's China getting to the U.S. through other means. The more they enforce against that, the more investment will move away from North America. People will, on the short term, put in a bit more investment in North America just to reach the U.S. and Mexican and Canadian market. But in the long term, they won't be able to export competitively anything from North America. And so investment will go down. other regions' investment will go up.
Pues muchísimas gracias, Adam Posen, presidente del Peterson Institute for International Economic